you'd achieved all this, and then you fell foul of cancel culture.
Yes.
Because around the time following the George Floyd killing and the BLM protests here, you said something. I'm going to put my marker down that it's completely not contentious.
It's not contentious today.
Yeah.
It was.
But even it should, to me, it
Yeah.
wouldn't have been.
Yes.
Because I was aware of this. But basically, you wrote an article.
Yep.
Put it out there. And the opening was, let's get this out there. Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
Finished. Because no one really disputes that, do they? No one reasonable.
I've never found anyone who disputes that line.
Exactly. Why would you? But of course, you had something to say about the BLM organisation.
Yes.
Which is not the same as the people in the streets. Give us your thoughts on the BLM organisation that caused you these problems.
Yeah. So in the summer last year, we had the tragic death of George Floyd, and then BLM came to national attention, and we had protests. We had peaceful protests in Manchester, but they weren't peaceful everywhere, especially London and Bristol. And I'd not really heard of that organisation before. I knew it was an organisation. Most people didn't, but I knew it was an organisation. So I Googled them, and I went to their website. So not a conspiracy theory website. I went to their own website and read what they were about and what they wanted. And I read it and thought, I'm shocked. This has got nothing to do with race equality. This is a Marxist organisation.
Yeah.
That wants to, and stating they want to overthrow capitalism. And the worst thing I saw was they want to disrupt the nuclear family.
Yes.
And I sat back on that and thought about it and thought, I understand every word in that, but I don't understand what it means when you put all those words together. They want to disrupt the nuclear family. And all I could get out of that was they want to remove more fathers from the home. That's all that could mean to me. Disrupt the nuclear family, which is a mum and a dad. And it was like, no. One of the biggest problems we've got in society is a lack of fathers in the home and a lack of fathers involved in their children's lives. That's the big... If I could cure one problem in our society, it would be that. And here's an organisation that wants to make that problem even worse. And I spoke to my friends and family, and no one had heard of Black Lives Matter, the organisation. And I thought, I need to do something about this. I need to write something. And I'd wrote several blogs before. I thought I'll write something to explain what I found out. So I wrote a 650-word blog, starting off with, of course, Black Lives Matter. And I'd be interested if you could find anyone in the country who disagrees with that. But then let's look at the organisation. So I talked about what they wanted, about how none of it will improve the lives of black people in the UK. How we shouldn't be importing problems from another continent to the UK because they don't match. Just like trying to fix our problems with a project somewhere else and importing it to East Manchester doesn't work, but that's not going to work either. And then I'd suggested if we wanted to improve black people's lives in the country, this is what we need to be concentrating on. Knife crime in London, that kills mostly black young men. Where's the outcry for that? There is no outcry. They're dying on our streets and no one cares. You know, female genital mutilation, male genital mutilation, that's worth a conversation. And there's all these things we could talk about. And the last point was, what about building more homes? Because that's a number one problem for all young people. Where are they going to live? And we don't even talk about that much.
No, of course not.
So if we want to improve people's lives and black people's lives, here's some of my opinions. I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying we should do it. And then I ended then saying these protests we've got at the are being not hijacked, but people are being hoodwinked, thinking it's about racial justice, and it's not. It's about Marxism again.
Well, I think that's one thing a lot of people miss. Yeah, it's Marxism, but if you go and look at the writings of Marx and Engels or whatever, it's not quite there, because then it goes into critical theory, critical theory,
yes,
which give us critical race theory, which is dreadful,
yes,
queer theory, which is being hugely damaging to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, all these line of thoughts about smashing all of our establishments,
yeah,
how we work, how we operate as individuals, and creating this unattainable.
Yeah. Tear it all down,
yeah,
and let's build utopia.
That's the problem, though, isn't it? No one quite spells out how the utopia works. But I've always said, the people that state this, they don't see themselves as the people in the fields, do they?
No.
They're always the ones that will tell you how to be in the fields, as if that will be very different from any communism we've had before, or indeed capitalism that we had before. Because like you, I did the same thing. I went to their website because I noticed the fundraiser. And I thought, what are they raising the funds for? Because it's the first thing I always wonder.
Follow the money.
When a new charity pops up, like recently down in London, it was, do you remember Reclaim the Streets? It was around the time of the Ripper and all that sort of thing. When up popped Reclaim these streets and raised a huge sum of money, and it's, where's that all going? And now it's being dispersed to various different charities, and it's just... So that was an exercise in what exactly? So it's very similar. Now, if people go and look at it, there'll be people watching this now already convinced we're shocking racists just for saying the truth about the Black Lives Matters organisation. But what you've said is entirely based on what they put on their website. Exactly. And as a consequence of you pointing out what they wrote on their website and then offering some possible actual real-world solutions, you were rewarded with being called a fascist, a white supremacist on national radio. I'm not going to repeat the name of the woman that did it. I'm not giving her the oxygen. That was a terrible interview she gave. And I'm sure that if you'd been a lottery winner, you'd have smashed her out for libel as well, or slander.
I have legal action pending at the moment.
Well, then good reason not to go too deeply into it. But that was horrific. So you've become this Nazi-like figure. Now, because we followed each other for a while on social, never really interacted, but we've always been around a like here, a like there, a thumbs here, a thumbs there. And I've seen people accuse you of this. And I thought it was important during this, because granted, you're not Jesus Christ, you're a human being, but that's why I mentioned alongside right at the beginning, you were not raised in this pure 1950s atomic white area. You were raised in a poorer area of Manchester. You've been part of a Manchester charity that supported kids. White, black, whatever, kids. And all of a sudden for this, there was uproar. But of course...
Only for a short period of time.
This is what's even more alarming. A tiny little uproar, but I mean, I think it's better in your words if you tell us what resulted from that uproar.
So I wrote the blog, and then I was obviously guilty of writing while white. That was the accusation, that a white man is not allowed to have an opinion on black affairs, on anything with a black organisation. So somebody set up a petition online to have me fired from the charity I founded. And that got 450 signatures, and some people were, maybe fairly critical of me. I'd like to say I don't profess that I know everything. I may be wrong, but I'm entitled to an opinion. So the charity board, who I appointed, panicked. Unfortunately, they couldn't handle the pressure, and they did what I think the only way to describe it is cowardice, really. They decided that the only way to stop this is to sack me.
From your own charity?
From my own charity. So they emailed me with a one-line sentence that I'm terminated. That was a word they used. Terminated.
These are people that you'd worked with for years.
And some of them personal friends.
Terminated.
I knew one for 15 years. We were planning on going on holiday together. Another two I knew for 6 and 9 years, and one I'd known for about a year. So I felt sorry for her. She didn't know what she'd got herself into. But the other 3 people should have known better. They sacked me. The next week, I was a broken man. I was completely defeated. I don't know. I was embarrassed. I thought maybe I had crossed the line. And the more I looked at what I wrote and the more I looked at things, nobody came to my defence. Not one person came to my defence. Some people phoned me up and said, I support you, Nick, and this is terrible, but I don't want to say anything online. And it's like, well, actually, I don't blame you.
I hear that a lot.
I don't want you to get into trouble. And after a week, the old Nick came back, and it was like, no, I'm not having this. Do you not know where I've come from? Do you not know what I've overcome in my life? And I'm going to have a handful of bullies online think they're going to beat me. And I'm going to have 3 cowards sat on my board thinking they're going to get rid of me. I don't think so. So I thought, right, no, I want to fight back. So I went to the Mail on Sunday. They wrote a big article, 1-page article on me. That then changed the world. The day that got published, which was a fortnight after me being fired, Not one online bully ever mentioned my name ever again when that went national. And the reason is because I then got thousands and thousands of messages from all over the world telling me that I'd done the right thing and here's support. I had one businessman in the UK offering to pay my wages if I had no money. And luckily I had some savings, so I didn't need any financial support.
Lovely gesture.
But the amount of support that came through to me made me realise I was right. And then by that point, I joined the Free Speech Union. Which, everyone needs to join the Free Speech Union. If you like to talk, you need to join.
Yes.
Because you don't know when you're going to need them. They got me a solicitor, pro bono, free of charge. He looked at my case and looked at my contract and went, clear breach of contract. They cannot fire you for something you said in your personal capacity. Because all this was on my personal blog.
Yeah.
This wasn't Nick, the chief exec of a charity. This wasn't the charity speaking. It was me on my personal social media. So they wrote, so solicitor and me designed a letter. We wrote to the board, and I basically said, I'm going to sue you all. I'm coming after your houses. And we opened the door a little bit and said, unless you resign en masse, then I'm going to sue you personally for breach of contract. Within 18 hours, it was over.
Finished.
Because they'd already proved to me they couldn't handle stress. They'd already proved to me that they will bend with any force that goes against them. And all of a sudden, I was the force, and they capitulated just like they did with the mob. And the upsetting thing is, if they'd have stood by me weeks before, we would have been unbeatable, because I'd have stood by them.
Yeah.
And I'd have died for them, but they just wanted the easy way. They wanted the noise to stop.
Everyone's terrified of the mob.
They were terrified.
And no one stops to think that less than, was it 1% of the population uses Twitter?
Yeah.
That noise is nothing. No. It's an irrelevance. Yes, they can reach out and hurt you, but only because people are so weak as to think that mob has any actual power.
Absolutely.
They're gifted all of the power
Yes.
that they have. So I let them just block and dislike me because they can't cancel me.
Yep.
What can you do? Get me banned from Twitter?
It's a bit like voodoo. Voodoo only works when you believe it to
in
be
it,
true.
absolutely. And we see it with big companies capitulating.
Yep.
Was it Innocent Smoothies?
Yes.
That I've forgotten her name and I feel terrible. An old lady, basically, on Twitter. Someone said, "Why are you following this fascist turf?" An old, you know what I mean? And Innocent by return straight away. Oh yeah, you're right. They're terrified.
Yorkshire tea. I'll never drink Yorkshire tea again.
But they're terrified, and I don't know why. Because none of these people buy your stuff anyway.
Yep.
You see it with films. Films, they don't pay for those films. They're not fans. Like the Star Wars thing is so toxic now, it's unreal. And in my opinion, we've gifted power to those illest capable of handling the power that they've got. We're seeing kids being doxxed, families threatened for words, for nothing, for opinions. And that's what infuriates me.
I think it's deeper than this now. These companies and these businesses and these public institutions, I don't think now it's to do with fear. I think they've bought into this because all their younger staff and middle managers have all been through university. They've all been brainwashed.
Some companies
into
are more
this.
captured than others.
Yes.
Reddit, for example.
Yes.
Reddit is it's not really one for going into too much here, but that's been captured on a massive scale. And it makes it sound sort of conspiratorial, doesn't it? But you've only got to look. It's not hinting. It's not saying, well, you know, I've joined a couple of dots here, guys. It's just there. They're just literally handing everything over. But all we see from any of these companies that are captured is an inevitable decline.
And that's called the free market.
Yeah, because it hits the rest of the country.
Yeah. I don't want companies and individuals not to be able to believe what they want to believe, because I want a free society where we can choose to believe what we want to believe. Absolutely for that. But with businesses, well, then you will find out if you're right or wrong by your bottom line.
Yes.
And you will go out of business if people don't want what you're selling. And if they do want what you're selling, then fantastic. Then I was wrong and you was right. And that's how it needs to work itself out.